Hello there. It's time for another Y.A.R.P studies, isn't it, Ninja?
I suppose it is. Hopefully, everybody in the audience is well. I know we've been away for a while, but hopefully, everybody had a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, or whatever other holiday you choose to celebrate during this wonderfully festive time of year. Speaking of years, it is officially 2023, and I believe this is the official first Y.A.R.P content of 2023. How's
Yes, it
everybody
is.
doing?
I'm doing
I
alright.
am I am perfectly adequate.
So, today we are here to talk about something that, as film and story critics in general, is very near and dear to our hearts, and that is the existence of something called a plot hole. Because let's be real,
Indeed.
it's something we need to talk about. Okay, let's not ignore them. Let's talk about it. And their
But Patrick
range.
Willems said I should shut up about them.
Shut up about Patrick Willems. Yeah. We need to talk about the difference because let's be real, not every plot hole is created equal. Some are more severe and damaging to the story than others. I believe
Yep.
Wyatt has even provided a few examples that the audience may or may not have heard of before.
Yes, so, first of all, gentlemen, we're all familiar with Jurassic Park, correct? The first one?
Oh, the first
Indeed.
one? That really great movie that they made, and then they never made any sequel. Such a shame. It was such a strong film.
That film, exactly.
Yeah, that one. It's
Uh,
great.
Yep,
Great
that
film.
one.
so, there's kind of a weird thing in the scene with the T-Rex busting out of its kennel. Its kennel.
Paddock.
Fuck, paddock.
Paddock.
Yeah.
Shut up. When I think of dinosaurs, I think for some reason they're in dog cages that are
Oh,
the size
well,
of.
That's racist.
that's an awkward fetish, but okay.
I could see a little Compsognathus being in a dog kennel, but not a T-Rex.
Hey, it just push that sucker in there. It'll get in
It-
there.
It's fucking Jurassic Park, but with Clifford the Big Red Dog. Like, oh no.
I mean, you could maybe fit the baby T-Rex in a kennel, but like, good luck.
So
So, anywho, I assume you were talking about towards the when it's sort of to kick off, so to speak, the inciting incident.
when Nedry gets all the dinosaur embryos and turns off all the security, when that and the previous scene when it didn't show itself, we were revealed that the area of that paddock is flat ground, for the most part. It's
Yeah,
flat
because that's
ground
where
and
the
trees.
goat is standing.
Yes.
Mhm.
But then, once all the chaos has ensued, the T-Rex is fucked off. It's eaten the lawyer. It's trying to eat the kids. It's pushed Ian Malcolm into a cripple state where he now needs to have his shirt open. When they're trying to escape, the paddock suddenly has a 50-foot drop.
Very
bit-
strange.
The terrain literally
Well-
just changed.
I think I know why this happened. He really wanted to have a scene where a car like went over a
Okay.
so he needed a cliff. But there wasn't a cliff there. So obviously what do? I mean, you got to get your scene, right? So you just insert cliff.exe.
Oh, okay. As one does. I'm an editor. I understand this power.
Yeah, I mean obviously that's what you would want to do, right? I mean makes sense. Check
Yeah, not just like, even though we in all reality could have had the opposite end of the road be the cliff.
Well, I mean, I don't that.
So this is just an active plot hole in the sense the terrain literally changed to increase tension in the scene as Grant and Ellie are trying to just get themselves just away from the T-Rex.
Well, and
How mu-
the kids, right? Because you
Yeah,
end up pushing the kids off.
Well, it's because he's got Ellie on his back, and I'm sorry, Ellie's the other. That's the other doctor lady. I forgot the
Yeah.
name of the other kid. The Tim is in the car still. That's what gets shoved over into the tree. Lexi.
Lexi.
Yeah. She's on his back. So we have to move the characters out of the scene, and this is how we increase tension as we do so. Literally changing the terrain, and it took quite a while for audiences to even notice it. I wonder if we were to show somebody Jurassic Park, if they'd even notice it.
Well, here's the thing to consider about this plot specific. When you're going to assess the severity of the issue, does it affect the rest of the plot? And I would say yes, it does. In terms of it serves as the main separation between your groups of protagonists, right? Because once the kids and Dr. Grant go over the cliff, they are separated from the rest of the group for the majority of the film. So you can't say it doesn't affect the plot at all, but I will say that it doesn't. Trying to find the right way to word this. Like it does affect the rest of the plot, but it doesn't bend to any of the characters' like specific advantage or any of the characters' will. Like it really doesn't benefit anyone, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it serves almost nothing but to create a disadvantage, actually.
So I think it tends to be more forgiving in that sense because it doesn't really aid any of the characters. And it doesn't even aid like the villain of the story. You know what I mean? Like it literally has no long-term effects other than splitting up the group.
Yeah.
Which they could have done anyway.
Right.
Even without the clip.
If Tim, let's say, died, then I think the plot will be a lot more severe.
Oh, I agree. Like, if any one of the characters been like killed or seriously injured because of the cliff, you could easily point to it and go, okay, well, that's obviously a much bigger issue. But really, all it does is it basically cuts your group of protagonists in half. So you have the half that go off and deal with their stuff, and then you've got Dr. Grant alone with the kids.
Yeah,
that's it. You know, and so while there was a lot of people that didn't even notice it. And like you said, I mean, there's been people who have watched the movie multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
So, I would say as far as plot holes go, it's not the most egregious one. It is still an issue, but I would definitely put it lower on the spectrum compared to some of the other plot holes that we have to discuss today.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't really have that big of an effect on the plot. I mean, if you took the cliff out and basically lost the car falling over the edge scene, you could still have a scene where because of the T-Rex emerging from its paddock, the group gets split up.
Yeah.
Like you could very easily still have that same outcome. The only difference is you would lose them dealing with the cliff specifically. Which I do think adds to the movie in terms of just suspense and excitement. Like it is a cool action scene, so I can understand why the director wanted to have it, but it does kind of suck in the long run knowing it's like, oh
yeah, and
you just, you know,
not only does it do that, it also kind of confuses the layout of the park, because they're walking along this area that the T-Rex was in but isn't now. And when they climb a big tree, there suddenly are the brachiosauruses. When it's like, so do these things share one massive paddock, or are they all separated? Because we were led to believe that they're all in separate paddocks.
Yeah, it is a little bit confusing. It does cause some issues with the layout of the best steel man I could think for that argument would be at that point all of the paddock fencing was down, so it's possible that there would be some intermingling of like, you know, dinosaurs getting out of their paddocks by that point in time. But again, I think that's being like overly charitable to the movie. Like you know,
Right.
it is an issue, it is a problem, it is a fuck up. Like there's no matter how you slice it. I just think that again, in terms of overall damage to the story, overall consequence to the characters, it doesn't particularly save anybody's life. It doesn't particularly hinder anybody in a massive way. It's literally just that action scene being so. Not the most egregious example I can think of, which is good. I mean, I prefer that to the alternative. But I mean, it is still definitely an issue. So if you haven't watched Jurassic Park in a long time, go do it and pay attention to that scene.
Yeah, just pay attention to layout of just how everything's happening. 1 second flat ground, say second part,
Give me just a second.
gigantic drop off. While he's doing that, same movie, is it more severe? I think it would be a more severe plot hole that the T-Rex just appears out of nowhere in the visitor center.
Oh yeah, that was just yeah, because he's literally just he teleports in. Then again, like we were saying off camera, the T-Rex is a ninja.
He went to ninjutsu classes.
Yeah, he was trained in the hidden leaf.
Because
I mean, if you watched Naruto, you would know this.
get that weeb shit out of here. No, because we're led through further evidence in the movie that whenever the T-Rex is around and walking around, it creates like a good tremble in the ground. We
Yeah,
see that with the cup in the car and the puddle that Ian Malcolm stares at. And then
yeah, it's
to
literally like
go ahead.
almost 10. It's like 8 tons, literally like 8 or 9 tons of solid muscle just walking. You would feel it walk.
Yeah, and then even though it had no way to get in as well, right as the raptor's gonna leap at our protagonists, suddenly T-Rex.
T-Rex Ex Machina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deus Rex Machina.
Oh God.
I'm a motherfucking T-Rex. T-Rex.
Oh God! Don't you dare quote nostalgia critic in this household.
I will.
But yeah, in terms of just the severity of just the two examples from just Jurassic Park, one of them clearly is definitely more damaging because it saves a character's life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The ending is a lot beginning.
And it's also strange when you start getting into like, well, why would the T-Rex come here specifically?
Yeah, why would it come here specifically, and why would it go out of its way to help the people?
And again,
I mean,
how
like,
did it get in?
It's like
Yeah, there's no like giant
it's
hole
like,
in the wall
yeah.
where where it came in.
Yeah. You would think that it's like if it had smashed through the wall, or if it had come through any kind of opening, or at least tried, you would have heard like
Well,
the
there
crashing of
wasn't-
bricks and shit.
Yeah, there wasn't even an opening for it to. Like, there was no scene we saw where it's like, oh, this building took a large amount of damage because of XYZ. Like that never happened, you know.
Yeah, like
Or at
because
the
of
very
the
least
storm.
going, this portion of the building is still under repair. We're having difficulties, and it's a giant hole, let's say. Bit weird, but at least I could see the T-Rex going through it. Doesn't fix the issue, but it mitigates it a little bit.
Yeah.
And speaking of the severity of saving a character's life, what's our next example of a plot hole?
Well,
you see,
this one's a little
Knives-
bit more recent.
Oh,
yeah, knives have a tendency to just no longer exist.
Oh, you talking about Knives
it's
Out?
weird.
Yeah, that was such a good.
Yeah,
that's such a.
No.
I
Yeah.
heard they made a sequel.
Ew.
yeah.
No.
I've never seen Knives Out, so I can't talk about it.
No, it's
I can.
trash.
It's not good.
It's really bad.
I used to think it was passable, and it wasn't even that.
No, negative. So no, we're actually talking about everyone's favorite Star Wars movie of all time, the ending of The Last Jedi, the throne room fight that everybody loves so much, and how I feel like most people had the same or at least a fairly similar takeaway upon first viewing of the movie, and it's that it looks pretty good. Like, I would argue on your first watch, it's probably going to be like, yeah, that was the best fight of the movie.
Yeah.
But upon any level of scrutiny. If you slow that fight down, if you actually pay attention to the choreography, they try to hide a lot of the glaring errors behind, some flashy quick cuts and some things like that. But the choreography throughout that fight is abysmal.
It's genuinely awful. Like Ray kicking one person and 3 go back. The fact that you will see people often either it'd be, I think it's Daisy misses her cue one point, so the guy has to mid swing change direction to where he aims above her head.
Yeah, but even among all of those errors and mistakes, there is one that stands out from the rest. And it is when Daisy is getting attacked by a guy that is wielding 2 daggers or whatever. They look like knives, basically. We'll call them knives. And suddenly, mysteriously even, 1 second he has them in his hands and he's attacking her. And the very next second, they're gone. They don't exist anymore. Why is that? What happened? You're the choreography expert here.
So this is a very clear fuck up in choreography. The person was probably supposed to drop it like minutes ago, and they still have it. But instead of just dropping it, like in some sort of way that like they stumbled and dropped it or whatever, they decided to keep it and just keep going like normal. So they're like, it means that this person who's supposed to have 1 weapon has 2. So what do we do with that?
Well, apparently we fix it in post. We don't
Yeah.
reshoot the scene. We don't do another take. We just airbrush that shit out of existence in post. So whether you like the film or you don't like the film, I think we can all agree that this is very clearly an error. Now,
Yeah.
what makes this so egregious is the fact that this is the type of error that is literally saving your character's life. If they did not airbrush these knives out of the scene, Ray would be fucking dead.
Yeah.
That is what makes it. That's what makes it just absolutely unacceptable compared to some of the other examples about tonight. Is like the only reason your main fucking character is alive is because of editing done in post. Not because she, as the hero, made a good call, had some skill that saved her life, and God knows Ray has plenty enough of those already. She could have gotten out of it herself. But no, apparently the world bends to her will so fucking much that the editor of the film had to come in and save her ass.
It's really fucking funny when you actually think about it, but also very sad.
Oh, I think it's fucking tragic that's something. I mean, Star Wars has always had little issues here and there, like the stormtrooper that hits his head on the thing. But there's a difference in that, okay? Because
I was gonna even bring up a further choreography. Return of the Jedi. Luke supposedly kicks a person in the face, but you can clearly see there's like a half a mile gap between that guy's face and Mark Hamill's foot.
Use the Force. That's a Force kick.
Shut up.
But the point of the matter is, it's like none of those errors, none of those issues are nearly as massive.
Right.
Yeah.
They didn't have that level of consequence plot. I mean, arguably, out of all of the errors that we have on this list that we want to talk about, this is probably one of the most egregious.
Yeah.
Because this is literally Deus Ex Machina saving your protagonist from certain doom. Like, she would have died.
And it's not even like an in-story thing where it's like, it's bullshit, but it's like contained within the... No, it's the editor just goes, fuck, knife. There, gone. Yeah. Good enough.
The editor is literally like, fuck, what am I going to do? I got to do something. Fuck, this is a mistake. This is wrong, but I got to do something.
You think?
I mean, we couldn't just cut that like bind out, right?
You literally just could have done another take.
Well,
yeah,
or cut that whole sequence, like literally cut every shot of that guy interacting with Ray.
Yeah.
Literally cut all of it.
It's
Yeah.
why it's why, man, modern productions, you have all this time, all this money. You see this fuck
Yeah, you've
up
got
and
fucking Disney money. Like, get out of here. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
insane.
yeah, we're
There is
making
no excuse for that.
we're making a movie and it involves two martial artists that are peak of human capability and like magic and stuff. All right, one of your actors fucked up. We're starting again. We're gonna
Yep.
do this until you do it right.
And I'm not saying that it's not hard on the actors, but that's their job, right? That's the point. This is why you get paid millions of dollars to do the job. You are an adult pretender. Pretend.
You think that's
Make me
why?
believe that is literally your job and you're failing.
You think that's why, in all reality, people still attach so much to Tom Cruise? Is because he's getting paid millions of dollars, and yeah, he's actually the one throwing himself out of airplanes and
Well, I
flying
mean,
jets.
arguably the whole idea behind like stunt, performer, a stunt double, as opposed to doing it yourself, is it's less immersion break.
Right.
I mean, it is a little bit meta to say it's like, oh, well, we know that's Tom Cruise doing the thing. It's like, no. It's not even about that. It's about the fact that for that time during that movie or whatever, we can literally separate and go, it's not Tom Cruise, it's that character. And the less I get taken away from that, the less I have to look at the back of some stunt double's head, the better. The more immersed I am in the story. So for him, it shows me that he cares about the movie, he cares about the story, and he wants that higher quality.
Yeah.
Because people, whether they admit it or not, they like quality.
Yeah.
It's the same reason like Gordon Ramsay's a fucking asshole in the kitchen, but he puts out really fucking good food. That's why
Yeah.
people will pay like $100 a plate to go to his restaurant. It's like they want that high quality. So Tom Cruise delivers it, whereas, even without the Disney bucks, it's like, that's my thing, is like, if this was some indie film or low budget or even just a much smaller studio, I could understand having to make certain sacrifices for the sake of the budget. You are fucking Disney. You do not have that excuse.
You have more
If there is
money than
any
God 3 times over.
if there is any sort of excuse, like we didn't have time or we didn't have money, the only person responsible for that was you.
Yep.
You are the only reason that you wouldn't have the time or you wouldn't have the money.
And honestly, even on just like with Ryan Johnson, it would not take very long to reshoot that scene. Just have a scene, just like somewhere in there, like just redo that. Have Ray, I don't know, cut off his arm or disarm it. It would not take very long to redo it.
Oh no, you cannot convince me that was literally like all done in one take anyway. Like, I'm sure there were multiple takes done.
Yes, definitely.
No, yeah, AT&T chat literally made like a whole video talking about the different cuts that were made.
So clearly you had multiple shoots done already. Why not just use a different shot?
Yeah.
I mean, you could still fix it in post, so to speak, but just fix it by removing that part of the scene. Any shots that had that in the frame, I would have been like, we have to delete those. And either we have to use other footage we've already shot, or we need to shoot new footage. Those are pretty much your two options.
And also, just imagine, like what you said, where like Ray cuts this guy's arm off, and he's still going. That would have made those guys a lot more menacing. They can take that pain and just keep going.
Yeah.
That would have done. That would.
That would have made them look like really fucking badasses. But it's like, no, we don't get that.
Or better yet, if she cut off his arm, but he managed to maybe not like mortally wound her, but like, let's say, cut her up pretty good, and Kylo had wait, no, fuck, I'm sexist, damn it.
Yeah, you can't do that. Sexist.
Racist.
You damn misogynist.
Oh no, I hate the woman. No.
But yeah, that's definitely one of the worst examples in Star Wars. There's tons of other plot holes in the sequel trilogy for sure, but that's definitely one of the most egregious, if not the most egregious, for sure.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Shut the fuck up. That is a whole nother can of worms. We're not going.
God damn it.
Listen. He returned in the old EU, so it's fine.
It was bad then, it
No,
was bad now.
no. It's worse. He returned in Fortnite.
That might actually be what makes it actually worse, because in the book it explains, like, it's stupid that he transferred like his essence into a clone body, but at least like that's an explanation. I didn't need to go play a video game to see it happen.
Oh my
Not
God.
even a good video game.
Yeah, Fortnite. I've said it once, to say it again. Fortnite is actual poison to the industry.
It is, even though it does keep the 12-year-olds away from the other games.
So, we've got this is a more famous example of plot holes, but this is more just from a normie perspective. You guys remember Lord of the Rings?
I like Lord of the Rings.
I remember Lord of the Rings. I clap when I see Lord.
Yes, I do clap when I see Lord of the Rings as well.
Yeah, because
Well,
they're good movies.
hold on. Let's be specific. The good Lord of it.
Yes, the good Lord of the Rings.
Not the Rangs of Power. Talking about that bullshit.
No. Where the Harfoots are somehow more evil than Sauron.
Somehow.
You think since Rings of Power is out, the Hobbit movies have looked better in retrospect?
I do feel they've kind of got that same treatment that the prequel trilogy got. You know, where it's like, we were a little too hard on you.
Perhaps I was too harsh on you.
Yeah, perhaps I judged you too harshly. Like, it's like, oh, yeah. Could have been a lot worse, couldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it could have been so much worse.
So, let me lay this out. We're all familiar with this, but let me lay it out anyway. We got to get this ring to this volcano.
Yeah. That is accurate.
We know Gandalf has access to magic eagles.
He does. This is true. He does have access to magical eagles.
Why don't they get the ring and just Kobe that shit into the crack at Mount Doom from an eagle?
Oh, I mean, there's multiple reasons why that's an absolutely fucking awful idea, and we will probably explain all of them.
Indeed.
Sure the fuck will.
So, I think the first one, that's obvious. Well, actually, all of these are obvious. This is a stealth mission.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a big part of it. There's this little thing called the Eye of Sauron.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit of a problem if you're trying to get shit into Mordor, like, undetected. Kind of a bit of a problem.
Yep. There's also the Black Gates, which we see are heavily guarded.
So
Boromir even gives a couple of reasons during the meeting in Rivendell. One does not simply walk into Mordor.
Well, I mean, I've actually had this discussion, this topical debate with people in real life before. One of the things that gets brought up is like, well, okay, you hop on your eagles, you fly in. Obviously, you're going to set off some alarms, right?
Mm-hmm.
But given them the benefit of the doubt, I say, okay, so you're on your eagles, you make it into Mordor. What next? And they said, well, okay, you're on your eagles, you approach Mount. I said, okay. And he says you're maybe several hundred or couple thousand feet up. You drop the ring from a safe. I said, okay. So you're talking about dropping a very, very small item, hundreds, if not thousands of feet from the air. And you're trying to hit a specific target, right?
Yeah.
Now, that's an option. That's a possibility. You're probably also being shot at during the,
Mm-hmm.
But neither here nor there. Fine. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt. You're taking a very big risk that you're dropping this item from this height and it's going to go where you want it, because all it has to do is drift a little bit one way or the other, and suddenly it hits a rock, gets stuck on a branch, a twig, a ledge, a crevice, whatever. Mission failed. That's all it would take. And you're fucked. You're done.
And remember, the ring has a will of its own.
It does.
And we also can't forget, you're in Mordor now with the ring. Sauron probably knows where you are. You want to know what the Nazgul have?
Now, what do they have, Jake?
They have what these nifty things called the Fell Beasts. They're kind of like wyverns in that the fact that they fucking fly.
They sure the fuck do. And we actually see them wrecking some eagles
Yeah, I believe it was in two. Was
during
it
the
in Two
course of the
Towers?
films.
No, it was in
Was it in
Return of
Two
the King.
Towers? Oh, Return of the King. Right.
Yeah. So we clearly see that they are the largest opposition to the eagles. And at this point in the story, all of them motherfucking fell beast would still be in Mordor.
Yeah, they
Yes.
haven't, because they recently got their asses kicked by some ranger named Strider. One of them has a fucking torch sticking out of his eye socket.
Yeah.
So basically, your objective is surrounded by presumably an unnumbered horde of orcs, which, they've got archers. We see this. So if you try to get the eagles, if you fly lower, you can actually try to get the ring into the mouth of the volcano. You're probably going to get shot down, which again is a big risk because that's immediate fail state. If the person carrying the ring gets shot down and is now on their own behind enemy lines, surrounded by orcs and other monstrosities of all shapes and sizes, they're fucked.
Yes.
Because now you have to try and get that person into the volcano. Now, I have heard the argument, right, that they said, okay, so my eagle gets shot down. I, the ring bearer, run straight for the volcano and jump in. Even if I have to die, it's worth the risk. Or even literally jumping off the eagle height to secure the ring's destruction. Somebody could basically suicide bomb the ring into the volcano. And it's like, yeah, but again, you're taking a pretty big risk because if they miss, if they don't make it, if they get stopped, whatever, it's immediate fail state.
Yeah. And if you get shot down, they're gonna send orcs to where you landed.
Yeah, you are immediately going to be surrounded. At this point in the story, every single bad guy ever is still in Mordor when our story begins. They haven't
Yeah.
moved yet. That's the whole point of them drawing the armies out of Mordor. He's like, we need to give Frodo and Sam time.
Well, there are some in Isengard, aren't there? Like helping make the Uruk-hai.
Well, no, that what Ninja just referenced was when Aragorn was like, "We'll need to have Sauron empty his gates to bite."
Oh, okay.
He was referencing
Okay.
the very end of Return of the King.
Okay.
Yeah, but when most people bring up the idea of the eagle plot hole, they're talking about why don't they literally have the eagles come to the Shire
Oh, right.
and
right,
pick
yeah.
them up and take them to Mordor. So literally from the very beginning of the story, why don't
not
they
even
just
from the
hop on the
Council
eagle?
of Elrond. That's
No,
I've-
like literally, why don't they just go straight from A to B?
that.
I mean,
Well, I
either
mean,
way, whether you
that's
slice it
even
from
worse.
Rivendell or whether you slice it from the Shire, either way, you run into a lot of the same fucking.
Yeah.
Well, what possibly would even make it worse though, if the starting point was from the Shire, they've got some Nazgul that are even on their tail actually, because there were some that were in the Shire by that point. Or at
Not
very
by the
least,
beginning of the film. I'm talking about literally from Gandalf.
Well, Gandalf
like
doesn't
that
even know
beginning.
the ring is there at that point.
I understand, but like as soon as
Okay.
he knows that the ring is there, as soon as
Oh,
they make that
okay,
connection, that's when they're making the argument. Well, Gandalf should just summon the eagles
Okay,
and take
so
them straight to Mordor.
so like he's at Minas Tirith, he figures it out, gets on an eagle, flies his ass to the Shire, grabs the ring, flies off. That's dumb.
Yeah. I mean, Gandalf didn't even want to hold the ring either. Because he's afraid of how much it would corrupt him. Like he was refused to hold
Speaking
it.
of that corruption, the eagles are sentient races, so what's to say they wouldn't be corrupted by the ring's power?
Nothing. As far as we know, they're basically on the same tier of sort of like celestial holy being that the wizards are, maybe even less than them. So if the wizards are susceptible to its temptation, there's no reason to assume that.
Exactly.
Yep. And one other thing, granted, I think this is a bit maybe not as strong as the other things, but there's also the fact that if you fly low enough, you'll go right into a plume of volcanic ash. And we all know that's not good for your lungs. Granted, there are shots of people just standing in the heart of Mount Doom and not suffering any of that. So that's
Wait, didn't you see the Rings of Power? The fucking volcanic plumes have no effect. They're
Yeah, they
useless.
just smack Galadriel in the face. And
Oh yeah, even though pyroclastic flows move like at what is it, 1,800 kilometers per hour or some shit like
Shut
that.
up. That sounds like shit.
And even then, and she would just be inhaling all this ash and glass into her fucking lungs, to which they'd be shredded and burned.
And not to mention, I think it was said that the closer that Frodo got, the power of the ring actually, like, it increased. Hence why when he was finally about to throw it in, the ring was basically just going, no, you want to put me on, you want to put me on, you want to put me on. So
And then he's
if
just,
they just
like,
if they had just beelined it via the eagles, Sauron
Yeah,
would
it's
basically be
almost
like,
like,
hey, you're returning it to me, thanks.
Yeah, it's almost like Frodo wouldn't have been mentally or emotionally handle that
yeah.
as a character. I mean, I know character shit is like boring and kind of relevant.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, why have characters talk to each other? Just have the memory store.
Yeah, I just have the memory story.
No, why even have them talking? Because people who wear costumes talking to each other is stupid. You live in a dream world.
You do.
My heroes didn't commit atrocities. Well, that's cool, but you're living in a fucking dream world.
Yeah, you live in a fucking.
This is CGI. This is not CGI. So, clearly we as a trio do not like this quote-unquote plot hole, because in all reality it's not.
It's
No.
not a plot hole. It's actually addressed in the story in multiple locations. Like whether
Yeah.
you're reading the books or whether you're watching the movies, it gets brought up several times. So it's very frustrating when people bring it up as if it's some kind of fucking gotcha, when it's like it really just makes you look stupid because you clearly, I mean, I'll just fucking go there. You're watching movies wrong.
That or you're just not paying attention.
Well,
Like,
it's literally not even like an interpretation type of deal. It's like no, they very clearly tell you why that would not work and why it's fucking stupid.
They
Yeah.
tell you without directly telling you, essentially.
yeah.
No,
I don't thi-
I would say they directly tell you like all of the necessary information to answer. Why didn't they just take the Eagles? Is very clearly laid out.
Well,
It's
no,
never explicitly said, "Hey, we can't take the Eagles to Mordor because
yeah,
of X, Y, Z."
that's what I'm talking about. Like,
But
when I say,
that's just clunky, fucking shitty dialogue. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
that's dumb as fuck anyway.
Well, yeah, but like it's like it comes across where like it's like, do you need this is one of those times where do you need like the characters to look at you and say, we can't take the Eagles to Mordor because X, Y, and Z, and then go back to talking to each other like they're in character.
I think possibly if like we really were to cater to the normies, the Council of Elrond scene could have had like a tiny, maybe a throwaway line just for the absolute morons. Like after Boromir says like, "Oh yeah, there is evil there that does not sleep. It is a."
But that's one of the things that I appreciate about the movie is that it
Exactly.
doesn't dumb itself down for the normies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we love these movies.
It's like it's subtext, it's information that is conveyed to you. You just have to be paying the fuck attention.
Yeah.
So I don't want my movie to dumb itself down for the norm. It's like if you didn't get it, I'm sorry you were too stupid to fucking get it. The movie definitely went out of its way to explain to you why that wouldn't work.
Very much so.
So it's like it's not the story's fault that you're fucking stupid. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, you just have to pay attention.
You literally have to pay attention to the story that's they provide you with plenty of reasons why that wouldn't be an option. But for some reason people just seem to fucking ignore it and it's like, "Oh, okay, I guess, whatever."
Cuz they don't think of what it when they're trying to make these smart-assy like gotcha style remarks. They're not really thinking it through as much as just a basic story writer does. Like if we're just say we're at like a pitch meeting, we're just nice, we're storyboarding, and somebody were to just say that, they'd be they'd be like, oh, why don't they just take the Eagles? No, don't you understand? It's this such and such. It's like we get it's clearly conveyed, and
But they didn't. But no one told you that failure is the greatest teacher is.
Yeah, they didn't look at the camera. Get it?
Yeah, I know it's a little bit off topic. A little bit off topic. Is a little bit off topic, but like it's the whole Eagles. Oh no, it's not. Fuck, I'm stupid. Anyways, it's the Eagles thing is kind of like the perfect blend of like giving you the necessary information, but without having to literally look at you and tell you shit. Like what?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
moving
not
around you.
hand holding, but it's providing you all of the text and things that you need to figure out the answer to that question on your own. All of the
Yes.
pieces are there. You just have to assemble the puzzle.
Yep.
So if you choose not to, I mean, that's totally on you, but you can't say like, oh, well, that's not explained in the movies because it's like it absolutely is.
It's just it's explained through the stuff that happens, not necessarily through like exposition.
Yeah, which is arguably better because like exposition is important and like it is a part of storytelling. Like you're never going to completely get away from it, but like it doesn't have to be clunky and shit.
No,
there is a right
would you
way to
consider the
deliver.
opening flashback of Fellowship to be exposition in a way?
No,
Oh,
Like
it's
the
the easy.
absolutely.
background?
Well,
Okay.
yes and no. It yes, it is exposition, but it's trying to ease. It's almost like the story of Middle Earth is being told to us, so we do
But,
need an introduction.
but
Yeah.
why would you consider that? Because you say yes and no. Just
Because I think this might go down to a personal definition. Because when I think exposition, my example I was going to bring up was Tenet. When they go to Michael Caine, he just goes, "Oh, it's these secret cities that were in the Soviet. This guy came from this. He had enough money."
okay,
and it's
but hang on, because here's the difference. Like exposition, like any other writing technique or tool, is not inherently good or bad.
right,
There is such a thing as good exposition. I
right.
feel like there's just so many times where it's used shittily that you're almost making the word exposition a bad word.
That might be true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because yes, there are plenty of examples where it is used awfully.
Yeah,
Yeah.
most exposition sucks. I completely agree. But exposition in and of itself is not a bad thing. Like it's kind of necessary. Like you have to do it because you need to convey information and sometimes exposition is the best, simplest, most direct way to do it, but there are ways to do it right and there are ways to do it wrong.
Hell, like the
Most
opening.
people are just lazy when exposition.
Yeah, the opening crawl to Star Wars is more than anything. It's definitely exposition.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like
literally
they
its
have it.
entire purpose.
The rebels have stolen the plans for the Death Star, and they're now on their way to go get somebody. And then the movie starts.
Yep.
Yeah. It's the same thing with Lord of the Rings. That whole, intro is all exposition. It's literally bringing you up on the parts of the story thus far. But it's done in a way that's really good. It's a great example of exposition as opposed to a shitty one.
Yeah. Because and it's also nice to actually see Sauron just fucking things up.
Yeah, it's to show the stakes of like this is what will happen if he were to get the ring back.
Yes. Arguably worse. Arguably.
So,
Arguably.
with that being said, are there any even actual plot holes in Lord of the Rings?
There might be. I just can't think of any right now.
I'm sure there probably are, but I would say if there are, they're kind of going to be in that same camp where they're very, very ages. I can't think of anything that's like super damaging to the plot. I mean, usually when people try to rip into Lord of the Rings, they usually bring up the Eagles as like
Right.
the go-to gotcha sort of example of a plot hole in Lord of the Rings. But it's like that's actually a lot more of a shit example than you think it is. So
Well, not a plot hole. At least I don't think it is. How about the spirits of the dead that help? That Aragorn gets to help them. Is that like an issue with the movies, not necessarily a plot hole?
why would you say it's an issue though?
No,
Like,
no.
what's
I'm
wrong with it?
asking you because I'm not entirely sure myself.
Is it the question of like why don't they bring them to Mordor?
I guess, because that's one I've never actually seen it explained to me. It's just one of the common things with the Eagles.
Well, I guess my question is, what do you mean by explain to you? Like, what's wrong with the ghosts, or what is the argument against the ghosts?
Typically, I don't see an argument against the ghost. It's just brought up a reason why Lord of the Rings isn't as good as we think it is.
Because the ghosts exist, or
No,
because they're
it's
seen
the
as some kind of Deus Ex Machina, or
so
like,
when the
what's the
ghosts,
complaint?
I can do this one. So when the ghosts are done fucking everything up, the ghosty leader guy goes, "All right, release us from our bond," and then Gimli goes, "Oh, they'd be really great for future battles." And then Aragorn just says like, "Oh yeah, your task is complete," and then they all pass on to the afterlife. The question is why didn't he keep them for Mordor?
Oh, because that would be a go against Aragorn's character.
It would,
Yes.
yeah. It would literally be character assassination if he kept them against their will, and it
Yes.
would also make him essentially not fit to rule. Like that's the whole point of his character, is that he's actually a good person. When
Right.
the majority of the other people we see throughout the story are kind of shit or questionable at best. Like that's what makes him the king.
Yeah, one of the good examples is the fact that when given the option to take the ring, Aragorn refused.
Yeah. So if you had him suddenly be like, "Oh yeah, no, these guys would be," it's like, no.
I think how many of you guys have you two read the books as well, or just the
No.
movies?
It's been a long fucking time. I read the books. I will say I prefer. So anybody who's like, "Well, it's not exactly like the book," sorry, the films are fucking
No,
superior.
yeah, the movies are very much superior.
Like
And
fucking fight me. Like
even though the Tolkien estate absolutely hates them, it's one of those like, first off, fuck you. The spirit of Tolkien's work is very much present in the movies, and gets the same message across. I will need to double check because it has also been some time since I read the books. I think Tom Bombadil's kind of a plot hole because he just puts the ring on and nothing happens to him.
He just doesn't want to go because he just wants to garden. Tom
um
Bombadil.
I mean, you could definitely make that argument, and I think that's a big reason Tom Bombadil wasn't included in the films, because they just didn't really want to address it. They felt like you could basically cut him from the story completely and it wouldn't really have a negative.
Yeah,
Did Tom Bo-
it's kind of why I
did
call him like the tension killer.
did Tom Bombadil at all help when Sauron and sorry, not Saruman. Saruman invaded the Shire at the end of the book.
Oh fuck, is he part of the Scouring of the Shire? I don't think he is.
Oh, well, why not? Doesn't he live in the same Shire that Frodo does?
No, I don't
No,
think
he lives
so.
in the woods.
Yeah, he's
Oh, okay.
basically like an exile or a recluse. You know, he kind of lives off by himself.
Oh, so he just kind of goes, "Oh, look at all the hobbits." No, fuck it, my garden.
Well, yeah, he's Tom Bombadil.
Pretty much, yeah. He's kind of an asshole.
It's why there's the popular theory that he is Eru Luvatar in disguise. I personally hate that because it means that their god is actually he's an apathetic fuckwad who just wants to garden.
Well, obviously.
Yeah. Well, and this wouldn't really make sense because I mean, granted, this in the Silmarillion doesn't Eru actually like try and like stop Sauron from doing his shit by sinking Numenor?
Yeah, he sinks Numenor, and then also like this one I'll need to double check. When I heard this, I was like, that's so fucking stupid. It was also said that Luvatar actually intervened by basically pushing Gollum off of the thing in Mount Doom, and it's just like, no, he was wrestling Frodo for the ring. Fuck off.
Didn't he? Wasn't he also nerfing Sauron during the fight during like it was during the fight with in the opening of the first movie, like the flashback to the end of the war during the Second Age?
Possibly. Again, it's been a while.
Okay.
Uh, that's
So,
the
so yes, for any of the aspiring story writers there, you know, you definitely want to try and avoid plot holes whenever possible. But, you know, your writing might end up having a plot hole in it. And the trick is, you know, through the editing process and the redrafting process, just try to make any plot holes you have as minimal as possible. That's the main.
Yeah.
You know, just minimize the damage to the story because that's what's going to keep your audience immersed. You know, you want to keep them invested in your story and invested in yours.
yeah, and then like what's worse is definitely piling more plot holes to try to
Yeah,
cover the
the
original.
the more plot holes and contrivances you can't do that. So you've got to do the redrafting. You've got to take the time. And don't get me wrong, it's hard. It's not easy, but the
No.
end result will be worth it if you take the time and put in the work.
And
Yeah.
that's kind of why I've said, like, if you've ever written yourself into a corner, I would always say that, like, this the solution is not to delete the corner. The solution is to get yourself out of said corner by just by not by I mean it sounds like I'm just being an ass, but by figuring it out.
Or
Not necessarily. For in terms of a writing perspective, sometimes you have to save scum thing.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you've
you
literally
yeah.
written yourself into a corner, you might have to back up in the story to like, okay, where did the decision occur that set this sequence of events in motion? And you might have to go back to that point and have your character make a different decision that doesn't lead to that outcome
right. The reason.
because
Go ahead.
that's I mean, if you just force yourself to kind of bang your head against the wall and into that corner, I mean, sometimes you could potentially write yourself into a corner where the only logical outcome is that your protagonist or this character or whatever dies. And if that's part of your story, then so be it. But if that's not what you had intended, don't feel like you have to lock yourself into that any more than you have to lock yourself into any other outcome.
Yeah.
That's true. The main reason I was saying that was because there's two notable examples that I always think of with this, and it's Halo Infinite and Rise of Skywalker. With Rise of Skywalker, they could not fathom the idea that Kylo is just the main villain. So they wrote themselves into a corner with this, so they brought Palpatine back. That was very
Is it running
stupid.
yourself into a corner, or is it not bothering to put in the footwork to actually make it work? More specifically, not committing to it.
Yeah, I'm not
That's
sure if this is the best example
well,
there is of
it's because that's what I was also thinking with like Halo. Cortana essentially won at Halo 5. We skip
Yeah.
forward and now Cortana's dead so that we can fight the Banished, which are basically another form of the Covenant. So that we could then go back to square one. They wrote themselves out of a corner by just deleting the corner. To bring it back to the previous example.
They never actually explained how Cortana got beat, right?
She deleted herself
Oh,
with
yeah.
Atriox.
That is immensely contrived. At least,
Well, I think the reason it's so hard to find a good example of this is because typically when you run into this scenario, it's all during the writing process. Like it typically doesn't make it to the finished product like that. But in this particular case, it did.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I agree that's a really shitty way of handling things. But I don't think that because it sounded to me when you were trying to explain it that you were saying sometimes you need to do that.
I
Like you
well,
need to just delete the corner. And I'm like, no, you don't delete the corner, and you don't necessarily face the corner either. Like that's the thing about writing is it's very fluid, and it really depends on what you want as the author, like the story that you're trying to tell. What are you trying to convey to your audience? Is it a theme? Is it a message? Are you literally just trying to entertain them? What are you trying to do? And that because sometimes that is the right choice to make. I have to kill off this character because that's the road that my decisions and the story led me to.
right. Yeah, I
If
think
those decisions that your character made all made sense for your character, that might very well be the conclusion of their story.
that's fair. I think yeah, with these two specific examples, it to me has always come across as that you wrote yourself in a corner, write yourself out of it. Because with the Kylo Ren example, it's like just commit. He's the villain. Just do it. Like don't bring Palpatine back. Just face off. Like yeah, Kylo can't be redeemed. Make that decision. That's why. That's why, yeah, it feels awkward to say like the deleting of the corner, but that's what it felt like, at least to me. And you're right. At the end of the day, a writer could just be like, nope, just Control Z this shit. If I don't like this decision, we can always go back to that thing and figure something else out.
Basically, yeah. I mean, that's the whole point of the editing and the redraft, is that you really have to focus on, trying to eliminate as many possible. But that's the difference between a rough draft and a finished product. That's why you hear so many people complaining about like modern Star Wars, and it's like, oh, this was clearly like the first fucking draft. Like they didn't even do a redraft at all. Like, well, this is why people say that. Because that's the kind of thing that would have easily gotten caught on a redraft. Oh, so you just weren't even trying.
And then there's also just the famous example, of course, with Ryan Johnson, how he didn't want to make a good movie in the first place.
No.
Let's not talk about the fact that Ryan Johnson would prefer people to like mauled and hate and love. He doesn't want it to be universally one way or another because he's stupid.
Well, I kind of understand the gist of where he's coming from. I just think he has kind of a view of it. I mean, the short version of what he's saying is he wants everybody to be passionate about his film one way or the other, as opposed to being like just sort of neutral on it. Like, yeah, it was fine, it was okay. Because like as a creator, I could see like if I put out something and the general consensus was just meh, like yeah, that would really suck.
Yeah.
But I think he's conflating it was good, it was fine, it was decent with meh, and those two are not the same. Like
Yeah.
if the majority of your audience liked your movie, it wasn't meh, it was good, it was great, it was fine. Nobody had an issue with it. That's a good thing. Now, what you could make the argument for is a movie that comes out that's like, let's say, a 6, you know, you might talk about it initially, but then after like, 3 or 4 months, you're probably not going to be talking about it nearly as much. But the difference to me is if you have that 6 and it's pretty good throughout, even if I stop talking about it after 3 months, the next time I go back and watch that 6 again, it's still going to be a 6. I'm still
Yeah.
going to enjoy it. I'm still going to like it, and I'm still going to want to talk about it. With
Yeah.
something like The Last Jedi, he intended for it to be super divisive because he's like, well, if people love it or people hate it, either way, that's a very strong emotion. So people will be talking about my film long after it came out, which, to be fair, is correct. It's accurate. He got what he wanted. I just don't understand why that's what he wanted, unless it literally is he just wants to be part of the conversation. He just wants to be talked about. He wants his work to.
I think he just wants to be talked about.
Yeah, he just wants to be talked about because he even has this mindset about, like he's said multiple times that in his hypothetical world in his fucking stupid brain that if Empire had come out today, that it would have been ripped apart. It's just like no, that's very much not the case, Ryan.
No, and you can even go back and look at a lot for Empire when it came out. They were overwhelmingly positive. Like I'm sure there were bad reviews. Like every movie has bad
Yeah,
reviews.
every movie has bad reviews. I'm sure we could find like we could go to like say the not even the original. We could go to the first Terminator. That is the original, moron. Uh,
Yeah,
uh, and
idiot.
and then there We could probably
Hold
find
on, we're
this
not
is
gonna glaze past this. Say the wasn't the original Terminator.
because
What in the
'cause-
goddamn fuck, Wyatt?
yeah, didn't you know Terminator 2 was the first one?
Oh my god.
It started with 2 and ended with 2, okay?
God damn it, James Cameron, you son of a.
You connoisseur of making my favorite movie, but also possibly my most hated.
Well, listen, testosterone is toxic. It's literally a poison that needs to be removed from.
Everyone's
Which
gone
I think is
crazy
James
except for
Cameron's
us.
way of saying you need. So
You need
there
to
is
what?
that. You need to jerk off. You need to get rid of your testosterone. It's a poison. You gotta expel it from your body.
James, I
So-
can't do enough. I'm already at the max capacity here.
I'm gonna have to consult a physician if I'm gonna go.
I do this anymore, I think I'm gonna start to. I don't think I'm gonna be able to have kids. I'll be shooting links.
Just dust comes out like.
No, so. No, this even got my brain like jumping from back to forth in its autistic way. There is kind of a plot hole with Terminator series, and that is like how the time machine works. But that's because the time travel is more it's the jumping off point to get the narrative going, as opposed to like movies like Terminator Genesis, which try to use the time travel as its most integral instrument, and thus completely falls apart.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Anytime you make time travel like a focal point of your story, it becomes very easy to fuck things up. Kind of covered that before in a previous Y.A.R.P studies. Go check it out if you haven't watched it. But yeah, time travel can definitely create a whole lot of issues. I think most of the reason why people give it is because it's the inciting incident and then never really comes up again. I guess you could argue that because of the time travel shenanigans, that's how John Connor is ultimately born. So you could argue that that's really super important. But again, I feel like as far as the actual like physical process and logistics of the time travel, that's all kind of dealt with in.
And also it's even explained with the fact that when Reese said, "I didn't build the fucking thing," so he's clearly not aware of all the rules.
Well, yeah, he's just a soldier. He's not one of the eggheads. You know what I mean? Like he's just the guy that they opted to send back because he was the best one for the job, allegedly.
Meanwhile, John's like, "So, you know that Sarah chick? That picture that I gave you a while ago? I need you to protect her. I need you to protect this really hot person that just happens to be my mom."
Yeah, as soon as you start kind of picking apart those movie issues, but I still maintain the first two hold up.
No, I will always stand for Terminator 2.
But after that, it was a little bit of a downhill.
I wonder, I've always wondered, like, because it's been years since I watched Terminator 3, like, how fast does that fall apart?
It's not great, but to be fair, it's not as bad as like any of the ones that came after.
Does it immediately start with John Connor getting shot in the chest?
It does not.
Oh, then we're already on the correct path.
Yeah,
here.
that's what I'm saying. Like we're already better off. So it's definitely got its share of issues for sure, but that ain't one of them. Well, was there anything else that we wanted to say about plot holes? Varying degree of.
I'm trying to rapid fire quickly through like my film, like all the films I've ever seen, just in case if there was anything worth talking about. Do you guys have any?
I mean, we could talk about your favorite movie, Avatar. And how it's your favorite movie of all time ever.
See,
I sure do love that film.
The issue is I have one, but neither of you would have any idea what I'm talking about. So.
Oh well, yeah, that doesn't.
Well,
help.
so
yeah,
hold on. Maybe Ninja might have heard of it.
No, I
it's
don't.
It's probably obscure as fuck.
It's not obscure, but I just don't think Ninja would know.
Okay, I'm sorry. Present me the option, and I'll tell you if it's obscure as fuck.
Have you read Bleach? specifically the final arc of the manga.
Okay, so Bleach in and of itself is not obscure as fuck, but yeah, I can tell whatever you're going with is obscure. So yeah, no.
Well, no, it's how the main villain is defeated.
Yeah,
The
no,
issue.
we're not gonna.
I've heard that's
Yeah.
really Tizumi. We won't get into it.
Oh,
but I've heard
it's yeah, I know that's why I said I know of one, but I'm the only one that has context here that has context for it.
Yeah,
so.
I've watched maybe like the first season of Bleach, if that.
I read the very
wasn't my cup
first
of tea.
volume.
I have watched so far all of that of the anime that is available, and I read through the final arc of the manga, except for the Hell stuff. That was like a one-off. I didn't read that.
Is the new stuff that they've been putting out?
It's so far they haven't gotten to the really Tizumi stuff yet, which is the stuff I'm hoping that they change. Like, I think that changing the ending it would improve the series immensely. I just don't know if they will.
Yeah.
More or less in terms of how the main villain is defeated, not necessarily the outcomes and whatnot. Just that bit. But
You'll
yeah,
have to wait and see.
I will, because I'll have to wait till July.
Ugh.
'Cause part 1 of the final arc is completed, and now I must wait till July.
So, we've touched upon this from a certain other video we made, a certain hour and a half long video about a certain trilogy.
Oh boy.
A certain character basically constantly just has all these supplies and resources and all these people, and it's only somewhat explained.
Yeah, and his name is Harvey Dent.
Close. Harvey somehow gets around the city with a half-burned face, and no one says a damn thing.
Dude, Harvey literally off-screen no jutsu to fucking guy, okay? Like,
we will never stop pointing at that. He just went, "You just don't exist. You're going to Brazil."
he said, "You are coming to Brazil," and that motherfucker was gone. Yeetus deletus.
No, so it's partially explained that because Joker robbed the mob banks and he apparently got all his henchmen from Arkham, that's just supposed to just be a blanket explanation when is the paranoid schizophrenic from Arkham. We gonna trust him to actually be able to pull off any of these fucking heists?
Well, but wasn't it shown in the beginning where he's not using his own guys, he's basically hiring side guys? At least in the beginning?
Yeah, so for the beginning with the bank job, it's kind of implied with that, and hence why he kills all of them.
But I feel like, wasn't it implied this wasn't the first time?
Yeah, oh no, yeah, this is like the 5th bank he's hit within a year.
Right. So my thing is, like, I know this is gonna sound weird, but like, criminals talk. Like, if he's done this with like 5 other crews, and at the end of every single job he offs every member of his crew, I feel like that word is word is gonna get out that if you work with this guy, you're basically doomed. Because even if they didn't have enough evidence to conclude that he was personally doing it, they would still have enough evidence to go, well, everybody who works with this guy dies. So whether he's doing it or he's just fucking cursed, either way, agreeing to work with this guy is the equivalent of asking your ticket to be punched. You know what I mean? It's like, that's the kind of shit people would be talking, and they wouldn't want to work with him for that reason. Because I know this is going to sound strange, but criminals don't want to get arrested and they don't want to die.
What?
They actually want to enjoy the spoils that they steal. Like, if they rob a bank, they want to spend that money. I know that's crazy, but yeah, that's a thing.
Well, I don't believe you.
I know it's ludicrous. It's a lot to ask, but
I quickly punched into Google just famous movies just to see if there was anything. Ninja, you really like Pulp Fiction? Is there anything
I do. I really like Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction it's kind of hard to say when it comes to the plot holes, just because of the whole non-chronological storytelling. I'm sure there are plot holes in that. I don't know if you'd necessarily consider it a plot hole, but there's the like what's in the case. But arguably, I don't really give a shit because it's really relevant to the plot
Right.
in the long term. Like what's in the case doesn't matter. So
Yeah, and I think we even talked
it,
about this during the episode. I think we briefly talked about that theory that it was Marcellus Wallace's soul.
yeah, again, it doesn't change anything. Like whether it's his soul or literally just a shitload of money or diamonds, it doesn't matter. Like the case, their job is to bring him. You know what I mean? Like that's it. That's all they need to know. It doesn't matter what's in it, whether they see it or not. It doesn't matter because they know that if they fail their job, he'll probably have them killed. So that automatically makes whatever's in that case equally important, whether it's $10 million or a wad of chewed up bubbly gum. If your life depends on it, those two things have equal value.
Right.
So I don't understand what everybody's fascination is. These theories about like, oh, it's what's in the case. It really matters. It doesn't. They're still going to make the same decisions that they make in the story. They're still going to try just as hard to protect it. They're still going to make the decision to give the case to their boss because that's what they were fucking told to do.
What was it that I sent like a while ago? It was a short of Tarantino saying like you can decide what's in there. What's in the case.
I think that's his thing. Is like he leaves it up to. He doesn't want to say for certainty what's in it because that's kind of part of the fun. Is like it doesn't really matter. But if you prefer the interpretation that it's his soul, fine, that's your interpretation. But ultimately, it doesn't change the story either way. It's just something funny that audiences kind of like glommed onto and never let go. But really, it's super irrelevant. It doesn't matter.
I think that same type of logic might also apply to this one. Is it a plot hole that when a character just essentially enters the story? The film Raiders of the Lost Ark, it's that common thing that Indy actually changes nothing in the film. And I don't think that's a plot hole.
What do you mean?
Have you never heard of this?
No, but I'm not that familiar with the indie stuff. So
the
only one I watched multiple times was Temple. Like that was my go-to indie.
My favorite of the films, despite the fact I know it is of a lower quality. So the conversation is normally derived around that the Nazis would have found the Ark no matter what. Belloc would have brought it to that island. They would have opened it. They all would have gotten vaporized. End of story. Like, and I've never particularly liked that because it's basically saying that the plot hole is just that the main character enters the plot. That's not necessarily a plot hole. That's just the story's happening. And also, even if the Belloc opens it, they all get vaporized. They were on a island with a bunch of other Nazis. They would eventually gone to that place where the Ark was.
I think the problem with that sort of is that it relies heavily on, right? So you have to remember, whenever the character makes a decision, they're operating off of whatever amount of information they have up to that point. It's very easy to look at the events after the movie is over and go, well, if he had just done nothing, the same thing would have happened. And it's like, that's probably true, but the real question to prove that theory right or wrong would be, did Indy have a sufficient enough amount of information to logically come to that same conclusion? If he did, then yes, you could say, being a smart, character, he could have literally looked at the situation and gone, I literally don't have to do anything. They're doomed to fail no matter what. But if there was even a 1% chance that him doing nothing could have risked the world being destroyed or the Nazis being power, whatever. He can't afford not to act. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's the difference. Is so by the point in time of the story where he's making decisions he's making, does he have evidence that would convince him that that there's no reason for him to act, or is this literally just a case of people online trying to armchair quarterback now that they've seen the entire film from beginning to end?
I think it might be that armchair quarterbacking, because as far as Indy is concerned, when they were going to load the Ark onto a plane, for all he knew, that was going straight to Berlin, right to Hitler.
Yeah, and for all they knew at the point in the story, they didn't know that opening the Ark would melt everything. That's not what they thought would happen. Didn't they basically think that whoever opened it was going to essentially be like the power of a god or like some kind of gift or relic? Or
So what was happening through most of the film is that there's a lot of, like, Saul and Marcus, they're very superstitious, thinking like it's the power of the Ark, it is not of this world. But Indy just thinks it's just another artifact. Hence why when they do open it and it's a bunch of sand, he's thought he's proven right. Then all spooky stuff happens, and then he's like, Marion, close your eyes.
See, so he was operating under the theory or the assumption that it was some kind of priceless, important art.
Yeah, that's
which
literally
for all
the
he
reason.
Know, had some kind of spiritual or occult powers.
Yeah, like the whole reason
yeah.
he even surrenders when he's pointing a rocket launcher at it is because, like, Belloc appeals to the teacher that Indy is. He's like, we have uncovered history. This is history. Like, don't you want to see? Like, he lures him via his curiosity.
Yeah, so he has no reason to assume that when they open the crate, it's going to in the room. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason he would assume that or know that. Like, this is literally an object that, to their knowledge, no one has interacted with before. So, yeah, I guess you could make the argument medicine done nothing and it would have had the same effect. But his character had no reason to believe that.
Right.
So that argument doesn't really hold a lot of water.
It does not. Let's see. Just quickly glance over this list of movies. Unless you guys
did you check the chat?
No one said anything so far in chat.
No.
Last I checked, there was like one person watching.
I meant the Discord chats.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's about it. So with that, we can close this one out. So, Jake, go ahead and plug yourself since you were a guest on this Y.A.R.P studies.
Okay, so I'll assume there'll be a description in the channel of the video to my channel. I'm working on a big Mondo project, super big, very nice.
Do you want to give the
Subscribe.
audience some hints as to what that project is, or are you gonna leave everyone in the dark?
I mean, it's not necessarily a secret because I posted what it's going to be on my community page on my channel. It's the retrospect. It's going to be a retrospective of the character of Tommy Oliver, like all of the important stuff in the history of the series that involves him.
Neat.
Yeah.
Very.
So his channel will be in the link. It will be a link in the description. Thank you all so much for watching.